Hey, what's going on, guys? Darktide just dropped a new update and is doing a lot more than just smoothing out a few rough edges. The first thing that stands out is the enemy side of this update, because Darktide is not just tossing in another weapon and calling it a day. We are getting Scab and Dreg Vanguards, which are basically human melee bruisers carrying breakable shields, and that alone is going to change how a lot of fights feel in the middle of a horde. The Scab version is tougher and has the more durable shield, while the Dreg version shows up more often but uses cheaper, scrappier protection that breaks easier. Even when the shields are gone, these enemies are still stronger than the usual versions of their type, so they are not meant to be free kills just because you cracked the front line. Then there is the Packmaster change, and this one is sneaky in the best way. Packmasters are no longer limited to expeditions because they can now appear in the other modes too, once you are on Heresy difficulty or higher. Fat Shark also gave them better mobility, so they can keep pace when players try to back away, and the number of Poxhounds they bring with them now scales with difficulty, with armored hounds showing up more at higher levels. That means the Packmaster is not just a scary side threat anymore. Of He is becoming part of the wider mission pressure, which should make high difficulty runs feel a lot less comfortable. The weapon changes are probably going to get a ton of attention too, because the new Plasma Gun Mach 3 sounds like a very specific kind of chaos. This one is available to the Veteran and the Skitarii, and Fat Shark says it leans away from piercing through enemies and terrain and instead pushes harder into explosive damage on hit. That means it is not just a reskin or a tiny variant, it is a different flavor of Plasma Gun entirely, built more for impact and big pops than line shots through a whole hallway. For people who already liked plasma weapons, this looks like the kind of toy that immediately changes how you approach a fight. And that leads into the Skitarii itself, which is clearly the center of this whole update. Fat Shark described the Skitarii Alpha Primus as an Adeptus Mechanicus frontline warrior built for Darktide squad-level combat, with a totally new set of class weapons that includes arc weapons, phosphor blasters, transonic blades, and galvanic rifles. They also showed that the class has a very different progression style, with a cog-like talent wheel instead of the standard top-down setup, which should make it feel a lot more customizable from the start. On top of that, the class has its own unique character customization approach and even a servo skull companion. So this is not a simple cosmetic swap or a lightly adjusted class template. What makes all of the work is that the update feels connected instead of random. The new enemies, the weapon changes, and the class reveal all seem built around the same idea, which is to make combat feel more layered and less predictable. You are not just getting one feature shoved into the game and then left alone. You're getting enemies that force cleaner positioning, horde pressure that comes with actual shield logic, a roaming threat that can show up outside its old home, and then a new class that brings an entire Mechanicus-style identity with it. That is a pretty solid spread for players who care about both moment-to-moment fights and long-term build variety. And that is really the big takeaway here. Darktide is in one of those updates where the game feels like it is trying to widen the combat sandbox instead of just adjusting numbers in the background. The new shield enemies should make frontline pressure feel messier. The Packmaster should keep runs from settling into a safe rhythm. And the new Plasma Mark gives veterans and Skitarii players something immediately worth testing. Then you have the class itself, which looks built to be more flexible and more distinctive than what came before. This is the kind of update that changes the feel of missions the second you load in, not just after you spend an hour reading patch notes.